Good afternoon. It's a Saturday afternoon. It's actually the 1st of March, and I just got back in from walking my dogs. And before that, I was over at the temple where I lead a meditation class on Saturday mornings. I thought today I would talk about Abraham Lincoln and the idea of providence. So this is a great book by Alan Guelzo, who is he's written a few books on Lincoln, and this book is called The Redeemer President. And one of the threads of the book is tracing the evolution of Lincoln's belief, his personal belief, right? Not just the public pronouncements, but the evidence that we have of Lincoln developing a profound belief of some kind, quite different from who he was as a young man, and certainly prior to the presidency. And it hinges on this term providence. Providence is one of those ideas that I started looking at when I was reading Emerson as well, right? And that was all part of my intuition, my thought that there was a different way of thinking about politics and political engagement. And in fact, what it is to be an American, there's a different way of thinking about it than what we seem to be focused on today, and that it's an engagement with civil society that is kind of rooted in a spiritual necessity, whether, like me, whether that's sort of fundamentally Buddhist, whether it's Christianity or Judaism, Islam. There's an ethical component that I think belongs in the public space now, but it has to be done carefully, right? Because I'm not in any way, and I think you know this, I'm not in any way suggesting that we bang the 10 Commandments on every wall and enforce morality police. That's not what I mean by ethics. I don't entirely know what I mean by ethics. That's why I'm reading Lincoln and Emerson, because I think in the 1850s, 1860s, it was necessary to think about those times through a lens of ethics. And if you didn't start with that, then the turn of events brought you to it. So I'm new to the study, right? You can tell that I'm hemming and hawing a little bit. My hypothesis is that by reading Emerson's essays, reading about Lincoln and Lincoln's major speeches, the inaugural addresses primarily, that there's a model there that we can absorb and take advantage of today. One thing that I think is really obvious to me is that we've, in our definition of American polity, right, the body politic, we've lost the idea of transcendentalism and with it what it really means to be progressive, I think. Because I'm looking to reclaim that for my own sanity, right? So I have an anchor point for understanding the world that we live in. So providence, my starting thought was that providence is a way to explain why things happen. Perhaps it's similar to karma, except providence gives an interface to the mystery of God. And I'm looking for ways to reconcile those two things. I don't have a profound Christian faith. I grew up as a Methodist. In the last couple of years, I've been attending a Methodist church for the first time in 40 years and find it incredibly beautiful, powerful, meaningful. Worship is something that is an experience that I'm trying to understand as much as I can. But I don't have this real sense of an adjudicating divinity. In my Buddhist practice, I'm very comfortable with the idea of karma as a mechanism of cause and effect. And the cause and effect is very nuanced. Like, it isn't just gravity, although it has the same power as gravity. It's not mechanistic. It is based on ethics. It's based on skillful means and cultivating skillful, reaping the harvest of certain actions. And along with that, in any given moment, I'm not sure that I have free will to do anything other than what I did, given the karma of the moment, given the understanding of the moment. I could return to the past, to a particular moment, and everything being equal, I don't know that I could choose a different path other than the one that I chose. Am I dissatisfied with that? No, I don't. I have this feeling, though, as many of you undoubtedly do, that there is a sense of awareness broadly in the universe. Like there's a reaction to and it's not just cause and effect. I do feel like there's an understanding in the cosmos that responds to our thinking and to our actions. And I don't know even what language to use for that. I certainly don't think it's a person managing things. I don't think there's a person here. You know, that's the core of Buddhism, is that the self is a momentary aggregation of events and phenomena and experiences that ceases to be the moment that it occurs, right? It's incredibly granular procession of experiences. But what is it held together by? Anyway, providence seems to me to be a key that I can latch onto, or a latch that I can unlock with my key, whatever the metaphor is. So Lincoln, in the first year or two of the Civil War, when really by all accounts that was not going well for the North, for the Union, and quite possible that the Union would split. There would be a slave-owning confederacy on the continent, and the effort to maintain the Union would have failed. So Lincoln wrote a memo that was never published, but it's obviously a document that he used to, he composed it, he thought through some thoughts, and then it was kept after his death. His secretaries found it, John Hayes. So I'll just read through some of the comments that are in here. Again, the Redeemer President, this is on page 326, and Guelzo writes, as if in an effort to sort out on paper what his anxieties would not let him cope with otherwise, Lincoln began with a simple axiom. Okay. The will of God prevails. And then a second axiom, in great contests, each party claims to act in accordance with the will of God. You see, I think this was written in 1862. But that idea is in the second inaugural, right? uh, both sides of the Civil War believed they had God on their side. They weren't just saying it. The South did not look at slavery, think it was an evil institution, and then lie and say that God approved of it. They really thought that it was biblically approved. In the present Civil War, God's purpose is something different from the purpose of either party. So both there is a God with a will. Both parties presume to be acting in that will, but the purpose is something that really is different from either of those. I am almost ready to say that this is probably true, that God wills this contest and wills that it shall not end yet. The contest proceeds much as God could give the final victory to either side any day. Providence is carrying on this thing. So Providence supersedes or transcends, precedes certainly our understanding of why things happen. Providence is more than a mechanical unfolding of a predetermined set of events. But it is mysterious and will always remain mysterious. Right? I cannot tell how the suffering in my life or the suffering in your life plays into a larger pattern. And I will not say that suffering exists to teach, or or even more abjectly, avowedly, I will say, we do not deserve the suffering. We do not, right? It is not brought upon us. I think the best I can say for where I stand with my own understanding is that we all have a thing. I think I mentioned this a few weeks ago. We all have a thing, providence. We all have a health history. We all have an emotional history that runs through us and is not apparent to the people around us. We all have a thing. Providence. We're all creatures of providence. So we all have a thing, and something will always happen. A terrible suffering occurs, not for any reason. I don't think that providence implies that there's a grand plan that means I have to suffer or you have to suffer. Suffering is there because we don't understand. We don't have the right perspective. We don't have a broad enough perspective. Maybe. But the thing to keep in mind isn't to learn from the suffering. It's that something will happen afterwards. Something will happen next. Maybe to wrap. Okay, to to wrap it up for today. Like global warming and climate change. It isn't true to say that this is a planetary catastrophe. The planet doesn't care, right? I mean, at one point there was no oxygen in the atmosphere, and then however many billions of years ago the oceans filled with algae, and the algae barfed out oxygen for such a long time, to such a degree that oxygen became prevalent in the atmosphere, and then so plants and animals that breathe oxygen came about. We're barfing, CO2 into the atmosphere. We're reformulating the concentration. And it may well destroy humanity. It may well certainly destroy what we think of as modern civilization. And that's a terrible thing. And the human suffering that involves is terrible. But it's not a planetary thing, is it? Something else will happen next. Anyway, it's a weekend video, so more of a live stream than even more than usual, a live stream rather than a set idea. But if you've listened this far, I really would be interested in what your thinking is about this topic, and whether if you have any recommendations on books to read or podcasts to listen to dig into it. This is a subject that I'm chewing on. I'm trying to articulate what I think, but first I need to learn the parameters of the discussion a little bit better. So, thank you if you've listened this far. I truly appreciate that. So please subscribe, etc., and share and comment, and as always, keep your wits about you.